Trump's Joe Rogan problem just got worse as the president's biggest supporter has now called him out for gaslighting MAGA over Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell just offered to
Today on Truth Decryptor, Trump's biggest MAGA supporter, Joe Rogan, just shattered the silence and called him out for outright gaslighting the movement over the Epstein scandal. With legal battles heating up and explosive new testimony offers, we're diving into why this could be the biggest crack yet in Trump's armor. Let's break this down together.
Testify, but it comes with a huge catch. We've got a MAGA civil war raging as Marjorie Taylor Greene joins progressives in calling what Israel's doing in Gaza a genocide, and what's now starting to come out about that horrifying Manhattan shooting. We're talking about all that and even more on today's brand new Philip DeFranco show. You daily dive into the news, starting with this. Trump's Epstein scandal is now growing and, in a number of cases, getting worse in several very interesting ways that we need to talk about. Starting with the fact that Trump now wants Rupert Murdoch to be deposed in the Wall Street Journal lawsuit as soon as possible because, well, he's just too damn old.
That's a classic Trump legal theatrics to intimidate powerful foes by weaponizing health and age, trying to silence damaging stories about Epstein and himself.
Essentially what Trump's lawyers just said in a legal filing where they asked Murdoch to provide a deposition in Florida within 15 days. And that because Trump's suing Murdoch in the Wall Street Journal over an article that it published claiming that Trump signed a birthday card for Epstein that included a drawing of a naked woman and it referenced a secret, with Trump saying that this is libel and seeking $10 billion in damages. Specifically, you had Trump's lawyers saying that Murdoch needed to do this because he is, quote, 94 years old, has suffered from multiple health issues throughout his life, is believed to have suffered recent significant health scares, and is presumed to live in New York. And saying taken together, these factors weigh heavily in determining that Murdoch would be unavailable for in-person testimony at trial. And continuing, President Trump is requesting only to conduct Murdoch's deposition and have him produce documents associated only with his involvement in and any discussions related to the decision to publish the article. Though regarding Murdoch's age, one, I think it could be argued that Murdoch is at least half a demon creature, so a human being's lifespan is really not applicable to him. But also two, even if that's not true, you had outlets like NPR saying that Trump's demand to get him to be deposed so quickly, it's still unusual. So there you had a former executive for Murdoch's News Corps telling the outlet, it's classic Trump. He is using lawfare to use his own term to silence people. The problem is he's going after people who are equally equipped and in some ways I would say better equipped to navigate this stuff. And then adding that this urgent deposition feels like a gratuitous attempt to poke the bear. With NPR then also saying that this marks a personal turn in the litigation by calling out Murdoch specifically, a man that Trump at least used to consider a friend. Now with all that, reportedly Murdoch's lawyer has already indicated that he would oppose this deposition effort, but we're gonna have to see where any of that goes. Especially since that's not the only Epstein update we have today. Because Ghislaine Maxwell is now saying that she has some pretty strict conditions if Congress wants her to testify. And that, of course, after last week, she was subpoenaed by Republican Representative James Comer, and it initially seemed like she was not going to cooperate. But now, in a letter that her lawyer sent to Comer today, it appears that she's open to the idea so long as she can answer questions outside of prison and be granted full immunity. Right, and claiming that those are, quote, non-starters because Ms. Maxwell cannot risk further criminal exposure in a politically charged environment without formal immunity, nor is a prison setting conducive to eliciting truthful and complete testimony. And that is, she also demands that Congress provide their questions in advance.
Epstein's inner circle playing political games to dodge accountability while attempting to control the narrative with impossible demands.
So that she can prepare and identify relevant documentation and that any appearance be scheduled after the resolution of a recent Supreme Court appeal. Or they say you could just scratch all the above as long as she gets clemency and then she would be willing and eager to testify. But if she can't get any of that, her lawyers say that Maxwell will have no choice but to invoke her Fifth Amendment rights. As far as, do those requests stand a chance in hell, you had a spokesperson to the House Oversight Committee telling Axios that it will respond to her lawyers soon, but it will not consider granting congressional immunity for her testimony. And so that, is just another thing we're gonna have to keep an eye open for. But then also this morning, we got reports that had some saying this should 100% immediately put an end to all the conspiracies about that missing minute in the jail video. Because in the hours and hours of footage that the DOJ shared from the detention center that Epstein was being held in, the minute before midnight was not included, which prompted a ton of questions. But today, you had a government official telling CBS News that it's completely fine. There's no missing minute. With a source saying that the FBI, Bureau of Prisons, and DOJ all have a copy of the video where the minute is not cut. And so as far as, what does this do for a public that is increasingly demanding every single detail about the case to be made public, including the missing minute? I'm not sure. So notably, this is not the first time that officials have said that there is nothing to see in that minute, because you had Attorney General Pam Bondi previously attributing it to sort of a glitch that results from the camera systems resetting every night, so every night should have the same missing minute. But then, surveillance, video, and forensics experts told CBS that a reset like this is strange and that it does appear that the video was edited in some capacity and not straight raw footage as officials had promised. And so with that, it probably comes as no surprise to learn that in the headlines today, you have people still just doubling down on their anger with the administration. With, for example, the likes of Joe Rogan, one of the biggest podcasters in the world with one of the biggest audiences out there. He was also a huge cheerleader for Trump in the weeks before the election, and he's accused Trump of gaslighting the nation on this issue. Right?
When one of Trump's loudest champions breaks ranks, it signals deep fractures and growing outrage even inside MAGA circles. Trump's troubles are multiplying.
line in the sand.
Yeah.
This one's a
Yeah.
line in the sand.
Yeah.
Because this is one where there's a lot of stuff about, when we thought Trump was going to come in and a lot of things are going to be resolved.
Yeah.
We're going to drain the swamp. We're going to figure everything out. And when you have this one hardcore line in the sand that everybody had been talking about forever, and then they're trying to gaslight you on that.
You then also notably had Megyn Kelly saying yesterday,
this is self-inflicted. Now the president's very annoyed that it won't go away. It won't go away because of the way he's handled it. They've really created this own pickle for themselves, and we still haven't had a presser by Pam Bondi or even a long-form interview. So it's hard to have a lot of sympathy.
right? And all of that, it reflects general public frustrations. And that's not just echo chamber, online only vibes. There's been a decent amount of polling showing that the public just feels like officials are hiding something about this case. And in fact, just this morning, you had the Washington Post reporting that it texted over 1,000 Americans about Epstein and Trump. And it showed that over 60% of the country is at least paying some attention to the case. And the majority, they don't approve of Trump's handling of it. So there, I will say, it is worth noting that even though the big focus has been on MAGA Republicans lashing out at Trump here, the Post, they found that Democrats are paying the most attention and they're most likely to disapprove of how things are going. That is, again, only part of the story because you have reports noting that as Joe Rogan and the Andrew Schultzes and others like that in that space, as they're continuing to bring up this situation week after week, that's keeping the issue alive and it's thriving in the minds who are more independent or lean right. CNN even noting that Epstein's name was mentioned more than 40 times in the most recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, and saying the outrage is coming from within Trump's normally steadfast circle of conspiracy-minded media boosters. And then saying is arguably one of the most, if not the most influential of these figures, Rogan's criticism suggests Trump's headache will only grow from here. And so Trump's Joe Rogan problem, which is bigger than Joe Rogan, but he is kind of, we'll call it a wind maker. There are a lot of people in this space that kind of just go with the wind. It appears to still be going and even growing, even as the administration has been throwing out distraction after distraction. Time will tell if Trump's going to be able to dig himself out of this hole that honestly they created for themselves.
This Epstein scandal is now a full-blown crisis for Trump, with his own supporters questioning his honesty and legal pressures mounting against key players like Rupert Murdoch. As testimonies hang in the balance and public trust erodes, Trump's fight to control the story seems desperate and unraveling. Drop your take below. Do you think Trump can survive this Epstein nightmare, or is it the beginning of the end?